Mariota ended up finishing 24-32 for 237, but man, he is just not good. Back to Tennessee in the running game, Derrick Henry. What are they doing with him? Then they signed Dion Lewis, and you have Dion Lewis, he'll pop off, and you have a great game, and then 3 games you won't have anything from him. There's just no rhyme or reason. It just doesn't flow. There's just nowhere that you can see that they're going. The Chargers have a lot of talent, a lot of talent, but I just don't see them going deep in terms of being a real contender. One close to watch game, the Patriots beat the Bears 38-31. The Bears, let me tell you something. The game to me was ridiculous. Both teams tried to give this game away. Both of them. But at the end, it was the special teams that just let the Bears down. Cordell Patterson returned that kickoff against the Bears, and that was basically your ball game right there. It was very difficult to come back. For the Patriots, Sony Michel, man, this guy, he suffered with the knee injuries at Georgia. He is a terrific talent. He was coming off to back 100-yard games. I mean, man, you really thought he was on the way, but he suffered a gruesome knee injury, and we don't know yet if it's an ACL. Hopefully it won't, but from the looks of it, when you have that kind of talk and twisting, and you're caught up in a scrum when he's tackled and had to be helped off to the locker room not to return, it does not look good. The Bears, man, they had a 17-7 lead. Khalil Mack, they didn't list him as out. He probably should have been, because he was in and out of the lineup, and you could tell that defense just wasn't the same. I don't know, man. It's just something about the Bears. I've had debates with a lot of my friends from Chicago about Mitchell Trubisky, and I said, just give him time. He's going to be good. And he had this brilliant run which set an NFL record. I think he scrambled a total of 71 yards. When you look at the new generation stats, 71 yards just to score on an 8-yard play. But the passing is just shaky, the decision-making. And you factor that in with poor special teams, and you're going up against the Patriots. It's just not going to end well for you, and it didn't. It didn't. Too many mistakes. The Patriots, Gronk was out of the game. They lost Michelle. You would think, hey, well, it's going to be great for the Bears, but it wasn't. Because one thing you have to say about a Bill Belichick coach team, that team's going to be deep, and they're going to have people. James White came in. He didn't miss a beat. And even in his own right, he's great even when Michelle is going off. So they didn't miss anything. And as is the case the last few years, Bill Belichick coach teams, the defense is going to bend. It won't break, and it'll be opportunistic. Tom Brady, let's just say if you have a chance to win a game and it's Tom Brady, that's the way it's going to go. And even though this was a prime time example for the Bears to win, they didn't. And let me tell you something, Bears fans. You blew a game really badly in Miami. It was going back and forth. That was a big mistake. You let the Patriots off the hook. You only get so many bites of the apple before you know what, all of this comes back to bite you in the end. The Colts beat the hapless Bills 37-5. And I say, when you think about the Bills, you wonder, what has this organization done the past 2 decades? It's just been pathetic. From this mindless stream of quarterbacks that don't pan out, that don't go anywhere, to getting rid of a Tyrod Taylor, who is not great but is better than anything they've had. It's just been horrific. The running game, LaShawn McCall should be on somebody's potential championship winning team. Not at that age on a team like this. So why would Buffalo even invest the picks and stuff? The Colts, defense not too good. Andrew Luck doesn't have anything in terms of offensive line or really a running game. But they got T.Y. Hilton back. They look up and down, considering Luck has basically missed the past year and a half. But don't read in too much of this 37-5 victory, because they don't have the depth or the defense or the offensive line to actually go anywhere. In Buffalo, they should just be ready to be the first on the clock. The Detroit Lions beat the Dolphins 32-21. And let me say, the Lions have been searching for a running back since Barry Sanders. What are we talking about, Lions fans? 10, 15, maybe 20 years. Matthew Stafford, he's getting paid like the best of the best, but he's just been okay. He's been a guy that puts up numbers, particularly in garbage time, but he hasn't been great. But let me tell you something. This running back, this rookie, Kerryon Johnson, he's been fantastic. I just don't understand the Lions' logic where not getting him the ball more often. It shouldn't take injuries to other guys. This guy should be your future. And you have to start to prepare if you want to be playing in November and December, if you want to be a playoff team or contender. You can't be fooling around too much with the LeGarrette Blount and other people. Amir Abdullah, you have to say, this is my guy, and we're going with him. And Kerryon Johnson, if you just give him the ball more, you can see what he's capable of. And he's just fantastic. He's like a triple threat. I think he should be a third down back. He's great. For Miami, let me tell you, it's the same thing. You got Frank Gore, and people saying, man, Frank Gore's playing well. Frank Gore's about 45, 50 years old. I don't give a damn how good Frank Gore is. Frank Gore, at that age, that type of running back, is not going to lead you to the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And if that's not your goal, if your goal is just to have somebody that's pretty good, if that's your only goal, then you failed. And they say, well, we're doing this because Kenyon Drake, has more explosiveness, he's lightning, he always has a chance. Well, if that's the case, put that man in there. Put Drake in there like you saw when he scored a big, long touchdown in this game. Give him more opportunities. I don't understand teams and coaches that don't put their playmakers front and center. Why would you just keep fooling around? Makes no sense to me. Stafford has the running game. He has wide receivers. He has a stable of wide receivers. He has all the tools. The defense is playing better. This Detroit team better take off. And if they don't, you can point to coaching for this, because there's no reason that Detroit shouldn't be in the mix in the playoffs and for that division crown. But like I said, it remains to be seen. The Vikings bounce back, beating the Jets 37-17. Man, the Jets, that's another team. It's a lost cause. They're up and down. But the Vikings, man, no offensive line. Kirk Cousins has no offensive line. The running game, you can't run without an offensive line. But, man, Adam Thielen has just been fantastic on a pace. I think it's his fourth straight 100-yard game to open the season, 4 or 5. He's on a pace to break the all-time record in catches, and I know everything has been favored in terms of the rules for the offense. But man, and then you got Stephon Diggs that takes a lot of pressure off him, and he hasn't done anything because all the attention has been on Thielen. But once they start doubling, triple teaming Thielen, Cousins still has to find Diggs that really can blow up. This is a great team. That defense has been kind of shaky. They play the Saints next week, and Xavier McDaniel, that's going to be a big call because he went out with a leg injury. And we know that he is, pound for pound, the best cornerback in the game, arguably. So you're going to have to watch out for that. But this is a prolific offense that the Vikings have, and that's going to be some fireworks when they face the Saints. But Dalvin Cook, who's coming off the knee injury, he's still not back to himself. He was unable to play. Latavius Murray, he's a jag, just a guy, but he's a good jag. And he gained 69 yards on 15 carries. But the key to this game, the key to next week's game against the Saints with the Vikings, and the key to the Vikings season is how this defense holds up, because they're not going to be able to make that offensive line any better. That's not going to get any better. So they're going to have to ride with what they have. But Xavier Rhodes, the ankle, the foot, the leg injury, if he's unable to go off, it's something long-term or something that requires multiple games missed, you can see there's a big downgrade to them. Panthers 21, Eagles 17. Philly, I'll say it again and again and again. Too much celebrating over that Super Bowl and too much of reading your own accolades. They were up 17-0 in the fourth quarter. You do not lose a game when you're up 17-0 in the fourth quarter. Cam Newton and that Carolina offense had done nothing the entire game. They come back, storm back over 200 yards for Cam Newton just in the fourth quarter. They beat the Eagles 21-17. You can have no confidence that Philadelphia is, one, going to make the playoffs, or two, that they're going to contend again for the Super Bowl. I think there's just a disconnect where they've read the headlines, they're parted, and this so-called Super Bowl hangover. You can't read your own headlines. And I'll say it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Carson Wentz is the starter. Carson Wentz is the franchise for the Philadelphia Eagles. But make no doubt about it, Carson Wentz did not win that Super Bowl. That was Nick Foles. And a lot of people like to discount that. He still has to prove himself. I don't think you just plug him in and then automatically say, well, we won it with Foles. And Carson was 7-8-0 before he got hurt last year with the knee. He still has to prove it under the lights. And even though that defense and everybody folded, you have to point to coaching, you have to point to the offensive game plan, because they just relaxed and allowed Carolina to storm back. Let me tell you something about Carolina. As long as you have Cam Newton, you always have a chance. And he can be bad and look really bad, and all of a sudden he can turn it on, like he did in that second half, mostly in the fourth quarter, when he went 21 for 30 for 245 yards. And he doesn't have a whole lot other than Christian McCaffrey, who hasn't been fantastic. He hasn't been that great player like Alvin Kamara. But big disappointment for Philadelphia, and you have to wonder now the future. The Buccaneers and the also-rans beat the Browns 26-23. When is the Buccaneers going to realize, Tampa going to realize that Jameis Winston, they're not going to go anywhere with him. He just doesn't have it. He'll flash here and then, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to lead them. And eventually Tampa's going to have to, are we going to extend this guy? Are we going to give this guy hundreds of millions of dollars? Or are we going to rebuild and move on and realize that we made a mistake? The Browns, their fourth overtime. Can somebody please, fourth overtime in one season? Some teams go their entire franchise history and not have 4 overtimes. They've had 4 already. It's just Baker Mayfield, the look on his face. Listen, there needs to be some new life blood brought into that Browns franchise. And that means Hugh Jackson. Y'all know how I'm all for African-American coaches and getting a chance. This guy, I'm sorry, he's just abysmal as a coach. He doesn't inspire confidence. He doesn't inspire people to run through walls. I just think this franchise would do with getting rid of him completely. And maybe a new coach will spark something. But no matter what, the way it's going, they're not going anywhere this year. The Texans beat the Jaguars 20-7. And when you talk about Philadelphia and you talk about Minnesota's defense, you can also put the Jaguars in this bowl. Because even though Leonard Fournette is out, this is a team that was predicated on defense. And that defense has come up short. I mean, it was a dominating defense from Calais Campbell up front, from Jalen Ramsey, the cornerbacks. You can go up and down the line, the linebackers, the line, everybody. It was a dominant defense, and they've been blown out, beaten like a drum, not just on offense, but on defense. Reading your own headlines. Jalen Ramsey has talked so much smack. He's talked about other wide receivers. He's talked about other quarterbacks. But guess what? You're getting beat. Personally and as a unit, you're getting beat. So you can talk all you want, but you're living on past accolades. And this is a league of what have you done for me lately? And lately, they really haven't done anything. That's a big, huge problem because they really haven't been able to do anything at all. But they finally did bench Blake Bortles, but why they re-signed Blake Bortles and gave him money is beyond me. He's a third-string quarterback. Probably shouldn't even be in the league. Should not be in the league. But it's not going to help him. Then they signed, I don't understand why they're going with Leonard Fournette. They